Good morning. I'm Brother Mark Anderson, and we're continuing our study on the marks of discipleship according to Jesus. And today we're going to look at one that is probably the most down to earth of all the marks because it requires some blood, sweat, and tears, as we sometimes say. And I'm talking about bearing our cross. So we find this in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 14, verses 25 through 27. Many people followed Jesus. Then he turned around and said to them, "If any man comes to me and does not have much more love for me than for his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. If he does not carry his cross and follow me, he cannot be my follower." And so, with this particular mark of discipleship, we come against something that is probably the most difficult thing for us to do, and that is to say no to ourselves in order to say yes to Jesus. Many people think of cross-bearing as anything that is a difficulty in their lives or something that they're suffering. And I guess, in a sense, this could be true. I won't say that any kind of suffering is not a cross, because if we accept suffering as a way of drawing closer to Christ and closer to our brothers and sisters, then we can see this as a cross. But to draw closer to what Jesus means by cross-bearing, we need to think about four things. First of all, cross-bearing is something that is contrary to our human nature. In other words, it's difficult for us to do it, and it requires real sacrifice. Number two, it's something that we choose to do. In Matthew's version of this same passage, Jesus says that we must take up our cross. So we can choose to take it up, or we can choose not to take it up. Thirdly, it's in obedience to God's will. Emotions and feelings have to be put to the side, and we make a clear decision to please God. And last of all, it's not for our own sake that we do this, but it's for the sake of the world which God so loves. In other words, it's for others that we suffer. So, why is it so necessary for us to bear a cross in order to be a disciple of Jesus? Well, I think John Wesley gives us some insights into this, and I want to read to you just a few excerpts from some of his sermons where he talks about this very thing. Listen to these words. "The taking up our cross in the full extent of the expression is not a thing of small concern. It is absolutely indispensably necessary to our coming after him and following him, insomuch that as far as we do not practice it, we are not his disciples. If we do not take up our cross daily, we do not come after him, but after the world, or the prince of the world, or our own fleshly mind. If we are not walking in the way of the cross, we are not following him. We are not treading in his steps, but going back from, or at least wide of, him. Thus, to press forward, wherever the promise of life calls us, to turn our back upon the world and comfort ourselves in God. Everyone that has faith perceives this to be just and necessary and forces himself to do it. Everyone that has hope does it gladly and eagerly throughout, though not without some difficulty. But he that has love does it with ease and singleness of heart." I'm so glad John Wesley ended with that thought of love. Love is the principal virtue that we need in order to follow Christ as his disciple. So I want to encourage us to reflect upon what it means to be a disciple. Up to now, we've talked about to be a disciple is to love one another as Christ has loved us. That is Christ's divine love in our hearts. With that divine love, even something as difficult as bearing our cross and suffering for Christ and for the sake of others can become something that is even easy for us and very rewarding for us in our lives. And so, until next time, friends, go in peace, and may God bless you.